welcome to the OnStage Colorado Podcast. I'm Alex Miller, here again with arts reporter Tony Tresca. Hey, Tony, how's it going on this super rainy Saturday, April 27th, as we record?
Hey, Alex, long time no see. It's going good.
Yeah, we were out last night at Audacious Theatre's production of Space Conflicts. May the Farce be with you, and we'll talk about that a little later. And we're going to have a kind of a special audio review of that as well, so check out that on the site. So, as usual, we're going to review some of the latest shows that we've seen, some of the ones we've reviewed in print, as well as take a look at what's coming up around Colorado. Did I say in print? I meant on web, mostly, because I don't have a print edition for OnStage Colorado, but you actually have stuff in print with Westward. And does Boulder Weekly still have a print edition?
Boulder Weekly does still have a print edition, although our new editor, Shay Castle, over there, she significantly slimmed it down. So if you're used to like those fat Boulder Weeklies, they're not quite, they're a lot thinner and slimmer these days.
Yeah. You've noticed that a lot with a lot of newspapers that have just gotten literally physically smaller. Like, it might have been, maybe it was 11 by 17 at one point, and they get smaller and smaller because every half inch of trim saves like a bunch of money on newsprint, which is a unusual commodity. It goes up and down, but it's always kind of on the spendy side. So, but I was just noticing that the Highlands Ranch Herald, which usually shows up on Sundays on our driveway, I haven't seen it in a while. So I don't know what's going on with that one. I haven't seen it anywhere in the neighborhoods. I don't know if they've stopped or what. Anyway. Later in the podcast, we have an interview with local theater company. So they have a world premiere of a comedy called 237 Virginia Avenue by David Myers. It opens May 2nd. And usually local theater is playing in Boulder, often at the Dairy, but they're doing this one at the Denver Savoy. So I spoke with director Nick Chase, and he's co-directing with Pesha Rudnick. She wasn't on the interview. And also the two stars of this two-man show, Jacob Dresch and Lawrence Hecht. So Jacob Dresch is, I will never forget him as one of the funniest performances I've ever seen of physical comedy in One Man, Two Governors last year at the Colorado Shakespeare Festival. Lawrence Hecht also has a storied career at theater, even though he's in California now. So it's a really fun conversation. So stick around for that one. And yeah. And we wanted to talk a little bit about, so you just had a story come out in the aforementioned Boulder Weekly about this imbroglio in Boulder about arts funding. So it's kind of like continues our never-ending conversations about funding for the arts, and the title of this story, the headline was Where Creatives Come to Die. So you wrote this along with Shay Castle, who you also just mentioned, about how the city of Boulder pulled the rug out from under some voter-approved arts funding. So it's a little bit of a complex story. Can you lay out the basics?
Sure, absolutely. So the city of Boulder had previously been funding arts, culture, and heritage through the general fund of their budget. And they were getting about $1.8 million. But that money was being split with the city to pay city expenses, including its staff and things like that. So only about $900,000 a year was actually going out to arts organizations.
Which in a rich city like Boulder is like embarrassing.
It's less than zero. It's less than half a percentage point of the overall budget of, in 2023, it was $513.5 million a year. So as one of the advocates from Create Boulder, which is a nonprofit organization in the city that was kind of created and spearheaded to get more funding for artists and keep artists in the city to prevent kind of a flight out of Boulder as it gets incredibly expensive. They kind of mentioned that too. And so what this Create Boulder kind of identified as a potential way to increase arts funding was the sales tax that was expiring. So they were like, if we can get this sales tax, then that means we'll have guaranteed funding that the city can't take away from us. And so originally this sales tax was going to be somewhere around $3 million, but then after sales tax projections increased, it's ended up being about $8 million that these people, that arts organizations were going after. The city got wind of that and they were like, actually, no, we want that money.
Right.
We want it to pay for police and firefighters and other things like that, other expenses like that. And so the city said, we're going to launch a campaign against you for that sales tax. And Create Boulder decided to negotiate with the city and agreed to split the sales tax revenue in half, ensuring both sides got about $3.6 million each. And so that was a pretty big win for our artists and arts organizations in Boulder, because that was going to take their overall budget to about 3.6 plus the 1.8 million that they were getting from the general fund. However, the city of Boulder announced that they are cutting funding from the general fund, and they've also recently confirmed that they're going to be taking additional funds from that 2A money to pay for their own staff, and as well as to just set some money aside in reserves, cutting the overall gains for arts organizations down to $1.2 million. So they're going to go from $900,000 a year to $1.2 million a year. So it's adjusted for inflation, essentially nothing.
Right.
It's not a gain at all, actually. And so this hard-fought battle in which it got overwhelmingly approved by the voters by 75% to give the sales tax money to artistic organizations is now not going to be, it's not really a gain at all. It's kind of just business as usual.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, and also it makes you wonder, like, how did Boulder get to this place even before all this happened, where they were so poorly funding the arts in a town that's really known for, academia and university there, with a lot of artists and theater artists and visual artists and musicians, all that kind of, activity going on is kind of weird, and attempt to correct it just kind of didn't pan out. So they're not done fighting though, right? So they're working on the budget now. So for the coming year, for 2025, and they want to try and work on getting a little bit more of a carve out for the arts.
Indeed. So the city, in our meeting with the city, they did clarify that this is not official yet, and if people do want to change it, they're like, we listen to the will of the people. Although I guess not the will of 75% of the people who voted to give more funding initially to the arts, but they say they listen to the will. They're willing to listen to the will of the people, and so they'll make all of this information official around May in their first public discussion on it, and then it won't actually be approved until December. So there is still time, and arts organizations. Already, 38 arts organizations have signed an open letter to the city. That includes organizations like who we cover, like Boulder Ensemble Theater Company and Local Theater Company, in addition to other arts groups in the area, like the New Local and other groups like that who are in Boulder. And so these arts organizations and Create Boulder have announced that they're going to be organizing supporters. They're going to be calling the city, showing up to council meetings. The city has recently added a place where you can make public comment on the budgeting process, which was actually not available until this year, which is kind of crazy to me that there was no place for people to comment on that until now. But there is this option available now for people to go and make comment on this. And so I think the fight is just beginning. The mayor, Aaron Brockett, has already confirmed that he's heard from supporters about this, and he has expressed interest. Mayor Brockett has expressed interest in giving more funds and potentially even giving that money back from the general fund to arts organizations, which would be a huge win there too. So still time, fight goes on. But that's the current situation of arts funding and the budget battle in Boulder.
All right. So if you're out there protesting other stuff, maybe you can peel off some of your hours of camping out on the lawn to go protest at the city council there. Have you ever? You might wind up going to some of these town council meetings too. Have you ever been to a Boulder town council meeting?
I have, and I have talked to several council. Yes, it is. That is.
I used to have to go to them when I was a journalism student back in the Pleistocene, and man, they would routinely go to midnight and beyond because of so much public comment. So, all right, well, this does follow a national trend that we've talked about. Where it's kind of a lot of times arts organizations are the last to be funded and then the first to be cut. John Morey just had a story about this proposed $1 billion. Is it $1 billion or $5 billion to help theaters, and specifically theaters nationally, and Chris Coleman had testified in DC. It's called the Stage Act. So I doubt that goes anywhere, but
yeah, John just published an update in his Arts Roundup. I believe it was on Thursday of this previous week, that he mentioned so the 25th of April, that this bill is not going to pass.
Yeah. I mean, well, I don't want to talk about the politics of it, but it's unbelievably difficult to get this. And you've got one party that just wants to. They basically want to eliminate all arts funding for NPR and the public broadcasting system and things like that, and I just don't see the value of it, which is really sad.
And it's difficult because that money could definitely be incredibly instrumental in changing the lives of artists and arts organizations. Like I know John's story specifically mentioned that bill could be instrumental in saving an organization like Curious, who is still in their active Fund the Future campaign. They're about a third of the way to their $750,000 goal by July. But so still a ways to go there, but that's progress, moving in the right direction.
Yep, for sure. All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, a look around the state at all the live theater coming up, and it's a busy month ahead as we head into May. And also my interview with the folks from local theater about that show, 237 Virginia Avenue. So stick around. We'll be right back. The OnStage Colorado Podcast is grateful for support from Town Hall Arts Center, whose production of Red runs from April 25th through May 5th. John Logan's taut, visceral two-hander features abstract painter Mark Rothko at the height of his career. Viewed through the lens of his youthful new assistant Ken, Red takes a compelling look at the ever-changing relationship between an artist and his creations. Get tickets at townhallartscenter.org. OnStage Colorado is also supported by the Boulder Ensemble Theater Company, BETC, with the next showing of the children's improv company Mad Librarians at the Dairy Arts Center in Boulder, May 3rd. Plus, the adult improv King Penny Golden radio show returns on May 15th, also at the Dairy. Tickets at betsy.org. OnStage Colorado is also supported by the Colorado Springs Fine Arts Center at Colorado College, whose production of Rent plays May 2nd through June 2nd at the Main Stage Theater. Jonathan Larson's Rent follows a year in the life of a group of impoverished young artists and musicians struggling to survive and create in New York's Lower East Side under the shadow of HIV/AIDS. Tickets at fac.coloradocollege.edu. All right, well, welcome back to the OnStage Colorado Podcast. I'm Alex Miller.
And I'm Tony Tresca. And it's time for our regular trip around the state to see what's on stage now and what's coming up soon.
Yeah, so it was a little bit of a slow weekend last week. So we had, I had one review of, I went up to Evergreen to see Fireflies, which was a really beautiful little show. Really well done by the Evergreen Players. And so I had a review of that coming up. So shows that I think we're going to be out at a total of 7 or 8 shows this weekend. The whole gang, our review crew, as we call them. So Eric Fitzgerald will have a review of Red at Town Hall. So that's one about the artist Mark Rothko. And I know Andrew Eulenhop is in that one. I don't remember who else is in that, but I'm sure that'll be a banger. And that's only for a couple of weeks. It only goes through May 5th, so check that out if you can.
It's a two-hander, and it's a part of the Town Hall's new play series. They typically do a lot of musicals over there, and so they've been trying out some plays as of recently in these limited runs. So if you're interested in seeing more of that from them, definitely go support this run.
Yeah. Carrie Redmond, our reviewer up in Fort Collins, was going to go check out a production of Our Town at CSU. We've never covered one of their shows, so it'll be interesting to see what she thinks of that one. Also at a college down in Colorado Springs at the Ent Center, they're doing Othello, and our reviewer Judith will be at that, and that runs through May 19th. And then, Tony, you're going to be reviewing Cheyenne, so we talked to Cipriano Ortega in the last pod about this show. It'll be at the People's Building. So you're going to get out and see that?
I am.
Okay, so that one runs April 26th through the 5th of May. So that one will be at the People's Building, Aurora. Space Conflicts, which we just talked about, that will be at different breweries through May 11th. And we'll have a review, kind of an audio review and a transcript of that on the site here pretty soon. And then another new play, world premiere, Road to Lethe from Colorado playwright Jeff Newman will be at Benchmark Theater through May 18th. I'll be at that at the matinee tomorrow, so I'll have a review of that. And then another popular fun show that everybody loves to go see too, and it's one of these shows that you can easily go see again and again, the Full Monty at Miners Alley. And so Eric is going to check that one out. That runs through June 2nd, so plenty of time to get to that one.
I've never seen it.
Really?
I know I'm familiar with the basic conceit, but
yeah,
I've actually never seen the musical myself. I'm gonna have to do my best to get over there.
You should, yeah. It's a lot of fun. It's funny and silly, but it's also kind of touches on some some heavier issues like divorce and being a single dad and trying to make things work with the family and stuff like that. So. Also at Miners Alley, they're starting a new kids show on May 4th, The Emperor's New Clothes. So that will run through June 1st if you want to get the kids out to see that. They do a great job there. Rent is playing at the Colorado Springs Fine Arts Center at Colorado College. And that runs May 2nd through June 2nd. And our reviewer, April, will be at that one. And then 237 Virginia Avenue, which we'll hear about soon at local theater. That will be coming up at the Savoy in Denver. And then we've got Sam and Delilah at Wonderbound, which is a dance performance that is running May 2nd through 12th. Our reviewer, Alice Ketelin, will be at that one. That is mostly sold out. There's still a couple of spots on. It looks like May 4th, 5th, and 9th as of today. But yeah, that will sell out. And interestingly enough, Opera Colorado is doing Samson and Delilah, and our reviewer Susan Harper will be at that one. I think that one's just maybe 4 or 5 performances, May 4th through 12th. And then also coming up at the Denver Center, where did we sit on the bus? And that runs through June 2nd, and Julie Wackel will be at that one to review it for us. And another perennial favorite, the Putnam County Spelling Bee, is going to be at Vintage Theater May 3rd through June 9th, and Eric Fitzgerald will be at that one. And there's more to that title. What is it? The 25th annual
Putnam County Spelling Bee. You
right.
nailed it.
Okay. And then one I'm looking forward to at the Denver Center is the Lehman Trilogy, and I'll be at that. That runs May 3rd through June 2nd. So this is, if you ever, Tony, you're probably a little young to remember this, when the big financial crisis, just as Obama was taking office in 2008, and this Lehman Brothers was this big investment bank that went belly up, and wow. So yeah, I'm curious to see how they handle that as a play. Down in Durango, Merely Players is doing Chicago May 3rd through 19th. And then up north at the Lincoln Center in Fort Collins, for the kids, they're doing James and the Giant Peach May 3rd through 18th. Boulder Ensemble Theater Company, BETC, has What the Constitution Means to Me coming back for a kind of a second run at the Dairy May 3rd through 9th.
And they are completely sold out.
Wow.
On that run already. I was chatting with Mark Reagan for a piece I was doing for Boulder Weekly about the BETC's upcoming season in light of their season announcements and kind of chatting about the future. And he confirmed to me that they had sold out that their May run of What the Constitution Means to Me 2.5 weeks in advance.
That's amazing.
Of opening.
Because that's a decent sized theater.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's a bigger space than they were at in the Savoy. When he said they sold out they were averaging about 70 to 80% at each show sold out over there, but that's very respectable, honestly, these days.
Yeah.
In terms of audiences over there, but he mentioned Boulder Ensemble Theater. It makes sense. It's in the name. They've got a legacy and an 18-year track record in Boulder, so people are excited and show up. Yeah.
Yeah, great show with BETC's artistic director Jess Rob Lee in the lead role. Great show. So also coming up is in Brighton, the Platte Valley Players are doing A Midsummer Night's Dream at the Armory Performing Arts Center, and I am not 100% sure where Brighton is. It's somewhere kind of on the northwest side of Denver, I think. I don't know if I've ever been to the Armory Performing Arts Center. Have you?
I have. I've been here to see the Platte Valley Players twice before. I saw Proof in that space, and I also saw Man of La Mancha, which was they set in a kind of a homeless encampment.
Okay.
So I've been there twice. It's actually a super lovely space. It is in the middle of nowhere in Brighton, which you are northwest Denver sounds right. But it's a really cool space up there. It's a lot of capacity, and the auditorium itself is quite lovely. Brighton really outdid themselves with their town performing arts center.
Great. Yeah, and well-known director around here, Kelly Van Oosprey, is helming that one. And so that's May 3rd through 11th. And then Eric will also be at Heartbeat of the Sun. This is a buddy comedy from Cherry Creek Theater that'll be at the Meisel Center in Denver, May 3rd through 19th. So really curious to hear about that one. Whip through. There's a lot of shows coming up, Tony. So I'm just going to whip through a bunch of these. So these are some other shows. Stories on Stage is doing a kids show. Storybooks on Stage, May 11th at the Dairy. Also for kids, Mad Librarians. That's these kids show. Will be at the Dairy May 4th, 11th, and 18th. So here's one, Tony, that I was like, well, that's interesting. The Cher show at the Buell Theater. So this is a touring Broadway show, May 3rd through 5th. Mm-hmm. And I wonder how many people even sort of remember who Cher was. Do you know anything about Cher?
No. I don't. I mean, I didn't know anything about her personally. I'm gonna learn a lot about her next week when I'm writing my piece about the Cher show for Westward. But I honestly cannot say that I have a ton of relationship with any of her music. I mean, I remember I Got You, Babe, for some weird reason.
Yeah, Cher,
yes. I can't really say that I'm familiar with her. Wasn't she in Mamma Mia or something?
I don't think she was. She was in Moonlight. I don't know, but she and Sonny had this ridiculous variety show back in the 70s, the Sonny and Cher show or something. I remember watching that as a kid. But anyway, so that'll be at the Buell, May 3rd through 5th. Down in Colorado Springs, the Millabo Art Theater will be doing Incredible Circus. So they have a really well-established circus program down there. So that one's worth checking out, May 3rd through 11th.
Cher was in Mamma Mia too. Here we go again.
So
that's my only exposure to Cher.
Okay.
I don't know. I've seen her sing Fernando by ABBA.
Okay.
But I have not. That's the most relationship I have with Cher.
Okay. I remember a song Cherokee People back in the 70s and a couple other things. But she was known for having really racy, outrageous costumes in her stage show. And I think she was one of the first celebrities that kind of just did the one name thing. So, she was pretty big back in the day. Also, Control Group Productions is doing this is an interesting experience. I'm not sure I would call it a show. It's called Breathing Healing into the Banks of Sand Creek. It's an immersive thing. It starts in Denver. It's like a 4-week series where you take bus rides around Denver and Boulder to different, museums or something like that. And then the ending, you go all the way down to the Sand Creek Massacre Historic Site in southern Colorado as part of this. So that's a really interesting kind of a commitment there if you go to all of it, I guess. But
yeah, I was chatting with the team over there, and they were talking about how they were like, this show is really difficult to market.
Yes.
Because they're like, we're trying to convince white people that this show is for them. They should come see it. But they're also the subject matter is so heavy and it's a commitment. So they're like, how do we thread the needle while still accurately telling people, making sure people are equipped with what the show actually is, so we don't set anybody up for a bad experience. But
yeah,
I thought that was interesting. That kind of acknowledgement between art and entertainment, that divide, and how tricky it is.
So yeah, that one sounds pretty interesting. And then out in Grand Junction, the Mesa Experimental Theater at Colorado Mesa University is doing Three Sisters, May 18th through 27th. Jester's Dinner Theater is doing My Fair Lady through June 29th. Upstart Crow in Boulder is doing Inherit the Wind, May 2nd through 19th at the Dairy. Shadowlands at Coal Creek. This is running May 3rd through 18th. And I can't remember what that one's about. But anyway.
C.S. Lewis's Love Life.
Oh, right. Yes. C.S. Lewis. Impossible Players in Pueblo are doing the Savannah Sipping Society. That's a comedy, and it runs through May 24th. And then at the University of Colorado, Colorado Springs Ent Center for the Arts, they're doing Men on Boats, the show with all female cast, through May 5th. Funny show. And so, yeah, that's a big list. So you got anything else to add to that, Tony?
I do. I have two more things I'll quickly shout out. So Stories on Stage is doing their final performance of their season. It's called Love Stinks. It's going to be at Love Stinks, the musical. Excuse me, I want to make sure I get that correct. In there. And it's going to be at CSU Theatre at 2 p.m. on May the 5th. And it stars a bunch of Colorado favorites, including Stephen Burke and Jeree Henshaw, who are going to be they're performing a mix of stories, some that they've written, some that have been published in other places, and they'll be singing interspersing it with some songs, some like love songs about maybe some of the not best relationships, things that maybe didn't work out.
Right. Sounds like fun. I would just say it's Stephen Burge. And so
Stephen Burge.
Yeah, so he's the communications guy at Littleton Town Hall, who doesn't get on stage a lot, but he's such a good actor. It's always fun to see Stephen on stage. So check that out if you can.
And then the other thing I would shout out is my update from Comedy World. Is I was at Adam Caden Hollins, who is a local comedian from the Grolics. He was doing his 20 years in comedy show on April 25th at Comedy Works, his kind of home club. And one of the openers was this incredible comedian. Her name's Hannah Jones. And so I just wanted to shout her out for folks. She does this really funny set. She kind of is talking about her sobriety and kind of gender politics and things like that. And so I just wanted to shout out. She does a monthly show on the first Wednesday of every month at Dude IDK Studios. And then she's also just got a bunch of other stuff coming around, including a show on the 16th that is just all of her headlining set. So if folks want a good laugh, I would definitely recommend hitting up Hannah Jones. She's a Denver-based, hilarious, a local comic.
Okay, that sounds great. All right. Well, that's it for all the shows. Hold on, and we'll get to my interview with local theater. So stick around and check that one out. All right. Well, thanks for being on the OnStage Colorado Podcast, guys. We're here with Nick Chase, Jacob Dresch, and Lawrence Hecht with local theater companies to talk about their upcoming production of 237 Virginia Avenue, David Meyer's play, which is a premiere. Am I correct, Nick? Nick is one of the directors, along with Usher Rednick.
Yes, it's the world premiere of a play. This is a play that local theater company has been working on for the last 2 years. First out at UCLA with Nate Cordry and John Lithgow, and then most recently up at the Durango Play Festival. Pesha directed both of those workshops, and now we're really excited to be presenting the world premiere at the Savoy in Denver.
All right, that's right. Yeah, so it's going to be opening in early May. May 2nd through the 19th at the Savoy, which is a great venue. It's I was happy to see when Boulder theater company like yours comes over to Denver, just because you have hassle sometimes.
We love our Denver audience, and we love our Boulder audience as well. So we're excited that we get to commingle those two audiences in these productions.
Well, I was just reading a little bit about so Jacob Dresch. I was just sort of fanboying on your performance in One Man, Two Governors at last year's Colorado Shakespeare Festival, which was a feat of physical comedy that I've rarely seen equaled. It was amazing. So I'm excited to see you in this show. And then Larry, I don't know that I've seen you on stage, but you've got quite a extensive CV as well as head of acting at DCPA's National Theater Conservatory. So you're going to have a two-person cast. It sounds like you got a big pair here, Nick. How did you come to have Jacob and Larry?
Well, that's a great question. It's funny that you mentioned One Man, Two Governors, because in fact, last summer, Pesha and I we're beginning the casting process, and Lawrence's name came up almost immediately. I think his skill and experience were something that we were very well aware of, and we were excited by the prospect of working with Lair. Also, he just has one of the most remarkable instruments. His voice carries so much weight to it. And it felt like the character of Rex that Lair plays needs to have a depth and gravity that Lair really does bring to the table. While we were having those conversations with Lawrence, we were simultaneously talking about who could be a formidable opponent in his son, because this is an epic father-son battle, 237 Virginia Avenue. And I saw One Man, Two Governors, and Jacob's timing in that show was so remarkable. And there is something about this show which switches back and forth between present day and historical scenes. These historical scenes do have sort of a madcap element to them. They're sort of in some way kind of farcical until they're not. They have these moments of violence that take place in each of these historical scenes, but there is a level of dark humor that's incorporated into them. And Jacob was someone whose timing really lends itself well to this. I was very, very pleased and impressed with that performance that I saw. And I called Pesha immediately after seeing it, and I said, "Hey, do you know Jacob Dresch? Because I think he might be our Eric."
Well, all right. So I believe, do you each play multiple characters, or is it just...
Yeah. I think I actually manage 6 because of I manage somehow 6 because I have one where he's a younger version of himself.
Really?
I'm a person. So 6 and 5.
At times, yes. It's over the 400 years, I guess, we play 4 different time periods of characters, and then in addition to the 2 primary characters that we have going on, so I guess there's 5 each of us play, 5 different people, yes. And
so, Larry, can I start with you? What are some of the characters that you play in the show? Which is there's something about home ownership, and there's a game of Monopoly involved. So there's and it's a comedy, of course. So, what are some of the characters that you've done?
So the challenges are great that way. In a limited amount of time, being able to flip back and forth in time and in character is quite a challenge.
Okay, so you're starting out in the 1600s, is that correct? And are you like in pilgrim hats or something like that, or?
Yes, we're in silly hats. Yes.
I don't know. The period costumes.
Not the silly hat acting.
Okay, of course.
Yes.
And Jacob, what are you the same characters like father son throughout, like at different generations? Is that it?
Oh, that's interesting. No, I would say every even scene is a contemporary scene where we're the same father and son, sort of slowly having this battle over our Monopoly game, but slowly but surely you start to realize also over the property they own. And then the historical scenes, every odd scene is really research for my character Eric's book about the history of the property that the contemporary father and son are fighting over. And they're not necessary. I don't know. No, they're never really father and son, even though that dynamic sort of
manifests itself.
Would like be parallel between the 2 contemporary characters.
Okay. And so it's, in some of the information I read about the play, talking a little bit about ownership and the American dream is kind of tied into this whole thing. So, Nick, what would you say about how this would relate to a modern audience, particularly at maybe a young couple trying to buy a house in Colorado?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, we're always asking ourselves why this play now at local theater company. And the reason that we were so excited to present this play is because we see this sort of generational divide developing in our society right now. This boomer versus Gen X or boomer versus millennial. So we see the character of Rex in present day, who is able to purchase a home on a single 40-hour-a-week income, 2 cars, tutors, all of that. And that was attainable for someone in the 70s and early 80s. Now we see Gen X and millennials who are interested in Gen Z, interested in purchasing homes. And these are individuals who are working 60, 70 hours a week, piecing together multiple jobs. And even with that great effort, they're still not able to attain what many consider to be the American dream, which is home ownership. And so I think there is this great divide that develops in this play. And I think it's a divide that a lot of individuals are experiencing right now, especially in Denver and Boulder, where houses are just so damn expensive. And the security that houses provide, that is unattainable to many individuals. And there have been systems put in place in this country over the last 400 years that have made it very difficult for many people to purchase a home. And now we see that even more acutely in there. So it's really analyzing how the system was put in place and where we are in this present moment grappling with this system.
Great. Well, yeah, I've been reading a lot about how boomers are, I got my 3% interest mortgage, and we're becoming empty nesters, but we can't really afford to go buy something else, whatever, 7 or 8%.
The golden handcuffs is a term that I've heard used in that regard, where someone owns a property, but they simply are not able to make a lateral or upward move because of the prohibitive interest rates and inaccessibility of the home cost of homes.
Yeah. Well, nobody's crying for us, but it is still, especially the younger generation is trying to get in. So, now let's start with you, Jacob. What is the process for you then, as coming into these roles? Is there one that really, you gravitate to more than another out of the 6 you're playing?
Oh, I mean, definitely the contemporary son has felt very close to home for me, being an adjunct professor type who is struggling to land like a more full-time tenured position and just doesn't seem to be working out in spite of the fact that he holds a PhD. And I feel very close to that, being an actor who's also a professor. It's sort of frustrating that, 10 years out of grad school, it seems like it's been a pretty lateral, career where, I've made some great successes, but, it doesn't seem like there's any higher rungs on the ladder, and that instability really connects with me. I definitely also feel that, my father has had his own health struggles during the pandemic. So I sort of know that dynamic of sort of, especially in the pandemic, being sort of stuck at home and suddenly having to be the parent to the parent sometimes. And that tension that, you almost feel a little like, oh man, I've sort of failed on a certain level being home, and the sort of accidental tension that happens between that relationship. So I definitely see an interesting parallel there with Eric. And so, yeah, I definitely feel very connected to the contemporary character in terms of his just given circumstances, his worries, his struggles in terms of living in a system where, oh my goodness, what I did everything the American dream told me to do, and it's not really coming out in the numbers.
Right.
And I remember the character breakdown being overeducated and under.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, I can do that.
Yeah.
And then in terms of the historical characters, I don't know. It's interesting. We do. I like playing the monsters. Me and Larry like playing the monsters. And there's definitely a couple of monsters in the 1800s that horrible, very real people who are dramatically very fun to play. But when I consider the reality of them, I sort of, shiver down the spine.
Yeah, I don't know how much fun that is. Yes.
I don't know, Larry. I have a pretty good time.
Oh God.
Hey, Mike, can you define? So, what is the big conflict between the father son in contemporary times? Is it tough shit, I got mine. You can't figure it out or something like that.
Well, I think, it's the generational battle. I'm sure that is universal in the way about what a father has feels his responsibility to his son through the love and care, and also, what the father is to teach the son as they get towards that passing on of not only ownership, but just passing on in life, that how that ownership affects the needs of each of them, but more about even the level of love between it. That's how it's tested by the struggles that seem so epic. But when it comes down to it, what does it have to say about just a man and his son and the love between the two of them, how they need each other, and how destructive some of these beliefs and ownership can be to that relationship, and how it really takes a fight to maintain, your connection and your love in your heart with this person who is probably the most important person in your life now. Your wife has passed away, but it's in your son is who you are. He's really, he's going to carry it on, whatever it is. But in the moment, you need that love and feeling, and you just find this struggle. And sometimes when you're working on it, it's like, yes, I don't have, I've never been privileged in a way that, in a sense, or if it's a privilege, but I've never sought ownership. There's something about owning a house that is so American, or owning a place to live that is yours, that is, as we talk about, is the American dream. That is the core of it. And being in my ventures in theater have never let me take that on. It was never in my mode of thought that, oh yes, I will buy a house someday. No, that wasn't going to happen. And it was the adventures of doing theater. You never had enough of anything. It's even wish for that happening,
Right.
But, so I'm blathering, but there's some stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if I was to ask you, so this play by David Myers, how did you and Asha come across it and want to produce it? Did it come out of the play festival or?
Yeah, so David Myers is a playwright who has a long history at local theater company. In fact, when Pesha Rudnick and Megan Matthews presented the first local lab almost 13 years ago, David Myers had written a play that was a part of that first local lab. And so the relationship was maintained by Pesha throughout since that time. And David shared 237 with Pesha, who is the co-directing the show. It was a play that sort of landed in our inboxes. And then during the pandemic, we expanded the local lab umbrella to include, which is local lab for audience members who aren't aware, is our new play development program. It's where we first sort of enter the portal to local theater company. And we have a great opportunity to work with playwrights to develop that play. But during the pandemic and the height of lockdown, we began producing what we call pop-up labs, which were these micro workshops happening in various spots around the country in ways that we could do so safely. And it just so happens that Pesha was in California. David is as well in California. It's where he lives. And so we said, well, this is a great opportunity for us to go ahead and support safely a developmental workshop of this. And since that point, we just sort of fell in love with the work, felt like this work was really speaking to the present moment that we were experiencing, and felt like a natural fit for a full production at local.
Okay. And one other question we had, so you and Pesha are co-directing. Pesha is in California most of the time. And so how does that work out?
Yeah, I think one of the exciting things was that Pesha had a great wealth of knowledge from having worked with David on two previous workshops of this work. And Pesha and I have also been wanting to collaborate on a play. This season at local theater company, we have a shared artistic leadership model, and all of the artistic directors have had chances to collaborate throughout the season. So, most recently, Pesha directing Betty Hart in Acts of Faith, and now us working together on this, and Betty and I working together on Stockade and Local Lab, Edgar Rosendorp and Carlin Aqualine's play. Pesha has been in the rehearsal room throughout the process, so has been available to come to Colorado and be participant in that. But it's been a great experience to be able to call Pesha and say, hey, what about this specific moment? What did you discover in that workshop? And then we can have a really robust conversation. And, I think two minds are better than one, and we're able to come up with some really exciting ideas in collaboration. And I also think that Pesha and I share a certain aesthetic, at least as it relates to this play, that has been a very productive collaboration.
I think what else I can ask you about this play? Is there anything that when Jacob, I do ask you that you found particularly challenging about getting your hands around one of these characters or for the structure of the play?
Well, let's see. Definitely just the line load. I'll just say that, it's roughly 88 pages, and it's just the two of us. And so, right. It's been a hot second since I've done something where it's just two people, and the line load's intense, but when you have Lawrence Hecht across from you, it's not too bad a situation. No. Yeah, Lawrence could just remember his line. I'll be fine.
Well, quite a good idea.
No, I'm in the same boat as you. No, it's a heavy line load. It's a lot to remember, but I actually think we got our feet on it, and we're finding our way. In terms of getting into the characters, I say it's fun to play a few monsters, but you also got to figure out a way to sometimes it's hard to not judge the characters or not pigeonhole them in too small a box, and still try to find a little, even if it's a little vignette, how do you still find a little interesting variety in them, a little bit of surprise, a little bit of the mystery or whatever involved in the character. And that's definitely what I love about the script, is I think has some very interesting dialogue, definitely has some very interesting thought inside of the drama of the characters. And I feel like every scene has a wonderful mystery that it sort of arrives at the end of each scene that really keeps pushing the drama forward for not just the audience, but also for the actors. So I think it develops.
It is a mystery.
Yeah. Each scene has a little weird little mystery revelation by the end of it. And it's very exciting. It's well structured that way.
Alex, do you mind? I'd be remiss if I didn't just celebrate our remarkable designers that we're working with. This has been a really beautiful team to collaborate with. They've created sort of a Swiss Army knife of a production design. So Marcus Henry is our production designer overseeing props, costumes, and scenic. CC Smith is doing sound, and Sean Mallory is doing lights for us. Sean has worked extensively in the Savoy with Theater Artemis and with local theater company. And Harper Hadley is our stage manager leading the team. So we've been really fortunate to work with a team of remarkable and talented collaborators who have created this beautiful 90-minute percussive instrument of a theatrical piece.
And how is this being staged? Because the Savoy is a very flexible space. Is it going to be kind of round, or how's it being set up?
Oh, we made the error of staging it in the round. No, it's actually it's not an error. I say that jokingly. It certainly presents challenges to my two dear friends here, the actors, who have to constantly cheat, turn, move, rotate, oscillate, do whatever they can. But I think one of the things about the staging in the round is that we really get a very intimate experience for the audience. And I say it feels like an operating suite of sorts from the Victorian era in which everyone sort of circles around the surgical, what's happening there. So it's a very fun experience, and there's there's a sporting element to it, and the in the round is something that we see in the setup of a sports arena. And I think there is something very sporting about this play. And so it seems like the appropriate way to approach it.
All right. Great. Well, before we close out, I wanted to ask, David, are you in CSF this summer? I feel like I saw you in there. So.
I am. I'll be playing Falstaff in Merry Wives, and I'll be doing Malcolm in the Scottish play. And I'll also be a bumbling hitman. I can't recall his funny archetype name right now, but in the original Practices production of The Art of Faversham.
Okay, great. And Larry, what do you have going on after this? Do you have anything here to do?
Going back home to California to do a little caretaking, which has been the primary focus of the last few years when we moved out to California. So that's my mission. Yes.
Okay.
Blair will be free and clear. This is his swan song, baby.
Hopefully not.
I know. I keep convincing him that we're going to go on the road with the great two-man shows.
Oh yeah, on the road. Here we go.
Yeah, on the road. Here we go, baby. We'll do We'll do a two-man Gatto. We'll do. You'll do Red again. We'll do like the theater. You know.
And then Nick, real quick, what's next for local theater after making this production?
Oh yeah, so next week we're going to be announcing season 14. So after we conclude 237 Virginia Avenue, we're going to turn our focus towards some really exciting productions. And I will say, in July, we're really excited to present the Democracy Cycle. That is something that our community knows about already. Which is a community-based project that we are doing in collaboration with Curious Theater Company and the Gunnison Valley Theater Festival. So we're going to assemble a troupe of actors to sort of act as troubadours, moving from one city to the next, performing some great short plays that were inspired by conversations that we listened to in each of our respective communities.
Okay. All right. Well, we will certainly have that information up on the OnStage Colorado website once you release it. So the show is at 237 Virginia Avenue by David Myers. It will be at the Savoy in Denver, May 2nd to 19th. Sorry, Dresch and Lawrence Hecht. Break a leg all around. All of you, thanks so much for being on the OnStage Colorado podcast.
Thank you very much.
It's been lovely.
Well, that's it for this week's episode. Thanks so much to Nick and Jacob and Larry for coming on the show to talk about this show coming up at the local theater and at the Savoy. And we'll be back in a week or so. And I'm not sure who our next interview is with, but we kind of run by the seat of our pants here. We'll figure out somebody. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the OnStage Colorado Podcast, wherever you get your audio stuff, and give us a review or a couple of stars, and let other theater lovers in your life know about us. Also, be sure to check out all the reviews, news, other podcast episodes, and our full statewide theater calendar on the website at onstagecolorado.com. I'm Alex Miller.
I'm Tony Tresca, and we'll see you at the show.
Indeed we will.